What's up, you guys? We're Bowling for Super in SoundMind Studios. We're testing out the SSL Revival 4000. You're not going to want to miss this. Watch and see how good it makes us sound.
We're able to use the Revival 4000 from Solid State Logic, and you see me smiling. I can't, this is just, it's making me extremely happy because it's exceeding my expectations. I tend to be fairly heavy-handed with my EQing and compression and kind of the way I approach mixing. I want everything to be larger than life. I wouldn't be known as, kind of a light-handed mixer. And what SSL did for me, even in the very beginning, is the aggressiveness, yet the cleanliness. I want to try to figure out how to make my mixes super clean. You can hear every instrument, but also have everything sound massive, larger than life. And SSL EQ into compression that's what does it for me. And also the clarity. The SSL doesn't soften the transients like some other gear does. The 4000 was the only console that I wanted. I could have, people were trying to talk me into a Neotech. It was a less expensive console, other SSL-like consoles, but for me it was an SSL 4000 because I had those experiences in the recording studios in Germany, the making of the Wicked Mariah records with Jim Morris, who's an amazing producer. I have to have an SSL. Also, I would look at Mix Magazine and Andy Wallace. He did so many records that I loved, and he was using an SSL. So I had to figure out how to get an SSL, and it was going to be an SSL 4000. Engineers that work with me and bands that know me, I'm a pretty simple, I have, as you can see, pretty much every piece of equipment under the sun, but I'm not the guy who reaches for, like I said, I don't have to reach for a particular piece of equipment, like an 1176, into this channel, into this SSL. I have a 4000 console, and I could completely work on the 4000 console, not have to call up any other piece of gear. But it's unreliable at this point. It doesn't work as I want it to work. So with the Revival 4000, just the way my mind works, because I record a lot of musicians at a time, if I had 16 of these, or even 8, I made it work with Bowling for Soup with 8, and it came out great. I would just focus on channel strips, just as I work on the console. That's just how my mind works. And plus, I think recording with all the same channel strips, rather than using a Neve on this or this, it's more of a focus and more of a cohesive sound. Because when you listen to this Bowling for Soup song that we recorded, it's very cohesive. Just sounds like an SSL console to me, but a newer version. And like I said, everything that was recorded with Bowling for Soup was all on the Revival 4000. So my normal kind of flow, a lot of EQ, a lot of compression, drums sounded amazing. I brutalized the channel strips on drums. Lots of everything. Watch the meters, like I think everyone was doing yesterday, the redlining, everything sounded great. Hitting the transformer hard, then backing down the trim. Having the trim on the Revival 4000 is a lifesaver for me. Because like I said, I tend to hit these babies pretty hard. But the trim is a lifesaver. And like I said, EQ into compression is the way it works. So kick in, kick out, lots of bottom end, lots of top, lots of mid, more, everything. And the Revival 4000 handled it, no problem. I was waiting for it to start clipping and crackling, because you'd see red line. You'd see lots of red line. My assistant was constantly watching that stuff, and then red. But I didn't hear anything, so red just means more power to me. And there was no problem. Where my older 4000, you'll hear it. You'll hear it start to, so there's more headroom on the Revival 4000. You'll hear it start to collapse. The channels didn't collapse at all. AJ, my assistant, he's like, if I had 2 channels of the Revival, I could do everything with those. I was like, I want 24. But if you had 2 channels of stereo, He said he would have no reason to get anything else, which you wouldn't. You have a channel strip for vocal. If you had 2 channel strips, what else would you need? The compression's great, the EQ is great, the mic pre is great. So I see kids in smaller studios, even 1. I would say 2 because a lot of things are done in stereo. But if you could just afford 1, you have a channel strip. You don't need anything else. That's exactly what we used. I used nothing else but the Revival on this Bowling for Soup session. And it's an open sounding song. Like I was saying to AJ, the assistant, it seemed like a blanket was taken off. I don't know how else to describe it than that. It sounded like new car pulled up, but still with all the muscle.
Some folks were surprised because we were just like, okay, we're gonna record bass now. We're just literally gonna plug it into this piece, this new strip, you know, this piece of rack gear, and we're not running it through anything, you know. And the bass sound that we were able to get was awesome. I mean, kind of one of the coolest sounds we've had ever, and I thought it was really refreshing. You know,
it was, and I do like having a different thing in a studio.
Well, for me, the channel strip, if I could only work on a channel strip rather than a separate mic pre and a separate compressor, for me, channel strip is the way to go. It's all in one, it's quicker. It's always seemed like the components work together better. Compressor works better with the EQ. Rather when I'm not a big one who's gonna go get like an 1176 and use it with an LA2A if I have a great sounding channel strip. So I would have absolutely no problem using 24 of these if I could get them on every instrument. Even vocals, I used it on all Jarrett's vocals. Sounded amazing.
How do I know? Do we ever really know what to believe? And who can I turn to? 'Cause you've never been there and I thought you should know.
There was I wasn't thinking, well, I gotta get a Neve 1073. Because something was better on the bottom end than with the Revival 4000 than the older 4000. I was probably mostly blown away with the Revival 4000 on guitars. In a lot of style of music I do, guitars could get very aggressive. 3K, 5K, 7K, and also cymbals are in 7K, 8K, 4K, just everything's going at the same time. You need that aggression. So what the de-esser did on the Revival is just shaved just enough of that off, and especially on the guitar, just to smooth it out just a little bit. And also the filters in the Revival are incredible. So I'm filtering out a little low with the high pass and a little bit of high with the low pass. But I'm pretty blown away by the de-esser. Transparent, but just shaved enough of that annoying 3 to 4K off of the guitars. It sounded like my 4K channel strip EQ, but much more powerful and more open. But also I can control it at the same time. I found 800 hertz, I use that a lot in guitar, was really pleasant on the Revival. It wasn't, because that could start to get a little, that was really nice. The de-esser is a secret weapon on this channel strip, because you want to shave some of that brightness off, and if you do it in the analog domain first, printing into Pro Tools or whatever you're using, it's kind of the right way to do it. And then you could do some more later, but you should try to get the sound right in the beginning.
I guess it's pretty easy to say what brought us to Soundmind the first time was this guy right here. I mean, you know, you grew up around the studio. You've been in here a lot over the years.
Yeah, I've known Dan for over 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So,
and he's only 24. Our Pop Drunk Snot Bread record here. And honestly, just fell in love with not only the studio, but, you know, Dan, AJ, everybody around here, but the area. It's so beautiful. You know, being here the last couple of days and recording this song, you know, I immediately got the fever, and I was telling them last night, like, all right, let's just figure it out. When are we coming back? Let's do another record. Right. And so this, you know, this project with you guys might be the catalyst for the next Bowling Pursuit record, and might be and probably the reason we're going to do our second record, the Pokemon.